Hi, Cassie. Good to see
How are
you.
you? Good to see
Good.
you. Always
Glad to
fun to
be
get
with you.
in together and chat about the latest article.
hmm I'm looking forward to it.
This one you wrote for spouses who have a spouse that is in the middle of an addiction cycle.
hmm
So there can be maybe we throw addiction around a lot in
Mm.
modern culture. What do you mean when you talk about addiction, and what kind of addictions do you have in mind when you wrote this article?
hmm Yeah, I wanted to specifically provide some kind of like some traction, if lack of a better word, specifically for the spouses of people who are facing one of the phrases that's used often is like a pattern or a habit that's
Mm.
become unmanageable. We
Oh,
hear a lot
yeah.
of phrases like, I can put that down anytime, or I choose this and I can stop anytime I want. But specifically for the spouse, I'm thinking of the husband or wife who is living next to this person who maybe says that phrase, like when they raise a red flag or they're going, "Hey, this is happening, it's giving me worry," whether it's drinking to excess, um, dabbling in drugs, whether it's recreational or prescription,
Sure.
even gambling, right? Overspending or really sudden large purchases that
Mm.
are just like this spending spree, and then we're financially in a bind, right? Or even pornographic use and sexual addiction that they're going, no, no, it doesn't affect us, or it's not that big a deal. I can put it down anytime I want. For
Yeah.
that spouse that's living alongside that pattern of repeated experience, it's not like, well, it was a one-time thing 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But this is happening on the regular. And when I say regular, it can be nightly, it can be every Friday, it could be every
Mm.
pay period, it could be daily. But there's a consistent pattern. Even the diagnostic material out there for clinicians says it's pervasive, like it's
Mm.
touching kind of every area of your life. So it's not just like a one-off fling every
Yeah.
decade or so. This keeps showing up to the point that it's catching your attention, and most often it's bringing the spouse who's living alongside them here to go, what's going on? How do I help? What should I do? So I just want to validate that this is something you're picking up on. There really is a pattern here, and we need to address it.
Yeah. So you wrote this article, starting by asking the question, should you even be involved with your spouse's recovery? And should you even be involved with your spouse's recovery?
Yeah, I wanted to bring that question up because this is kind of the front edge of recovery community work. There's a
Mm.
long-standing process through, say, AA or NA, Alcoholics or Narcotics Anonymous, in that recovery community that says, you have to take ownership of your work, the person who is stuck in an addictive pattern. Don't put that, your choices, your decisions on your family. And there's
Sure.
been pretty hard line for a lot of years of how involved should the family be
Yeah.
and how involved should the other person just say, no, you got to own your crap,
Yeah.
basically.
Sure.
But I wanted to bring this up because really what research is starting to show us about attachment and the root
Mm.
systems of addictive behavior is really starting to bring to light the importance of connection or a lack
Mm.
of internal belief in connection or capacity to feel connected to someone or something or some people safe that really seems to be contributing even more to the why that most people
Interesting.
start to move towards an addiction, a pattern in their life. I'm trying to self-soothe. I'm trying to fill a void, an insecurity. I don't know how to regulate my own emotions in a way that's really more productive and not harmful for my body or my brain. So I want to bring that to the forefront here to assure spouses, actually, we do need you. This isn't just Mary cherry
Mm.
picking ideas. Research is really showing the more actively involved a spouse and a safe community of support are
Mm.
for this person, it gives them hope and
Yeah.
reassurance. And it's actually part of the process of recalibrating and healing and choosing safe relationships and establishing new safe patterns in their life that supplant, if you will, kind of pull the roots out of the old system of escape or numbing to say, I got some safe people.
Yeah.
I've got some good things I can move towards, and I don't just have to stay stuck in that dark hole where I'm alone and I'm afraid and I got to numb all those feelings.
Yeah. That's, I mean, it's consistent with what we see in all the research and all the work we do in counseling. You guys do, you therapists.
I'm
Me, I
with you.
just pretend.
I'm with you. You're with us.
Ah, yes. Uh, that attachment being like just the baseline of everything. But as you're talking about this, I'm imagining the spouse, thinking like, that feels scary
Mhm.
to be an attachment. Like it feels scary to trust and to help in the process. So, what does that actually look like? And then I think also at the same time, maybe my mind goes to, okay, so I need to be the person that does the reminders for what they're supposed to do, or like
Mhm.
I have to hold them accountable. Like if drinking's their thing and I see that they're going out, like, hey, you're not going to the liquor store, are you? So just
Mhm.
provide some clarity on what that can actually look like.
Yeah, I love that question because you're right. That's immediately where our brain goes. Like, well, then do I have to be their speed bump every single time? And I'm
Mm,
probably guessing most people that are here and are looking at this resource are already in that loop to loop and they're already tired
yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
So,
Like that
what
doesn't feel like the right thing. So could you tell me the right thing?
are we doing? Yeah,
I hope that's
absolutely.
not the right thing because it really sucks.
Yeah, I'm really tired of doing this. Yeah, I care, but I want to be a help, but
Yeah.
I can't be the only one doing this.
Mm,
Yeah. So when I want to hold the flip side of that in balance of, hey, we need a human connection, but it can't all be on this one person.
yeah.
And you're right. They cannot be, the spouse cannot be like the hall monitor
Yeah.
for the person in that cycle to go like, are you doing this? Because then we start to turn into the nag or our own
Yeah.
fear, and we're constantly living in panic of, oh my gosh, did they do this? Did they do this?
Yeah.
And that warps the relationship from a mutually connected,
Mm,
approaching one another adult relationship to like, I become your caregiver
yeah.
and I gotta hall monitor you all the time. And that's not fair to the spouse either. This is where those two kind of schools of
Yeah.
thought usually get a lot of friction between them. So I want to recognize that what research is showing is if we could both face the reality of what recovery looks like, a tailored plan for each individual.
Mm,
Not every shoe fits everybody.
yeah.
And recognize there will be elements of our shared life together that we can both look at, how we learn to talk to each other about when the craving or the loneliness or the fear or the insecurity comes for your heart, the person who has been dealing with the addiction, that they can have a safe place to say, hey, I recognize this is happening, to let their spouse know,
Yeah.
because the spouse is always going to be wondering, like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you all right? Are you sure?
Totally.
How do I know? But if we can learn to talk to each other and then we lean on the support system
Mm,
that we both know are present. Like spouse is not responsible for making them go to meetings,
yeah.
reaching out to their safe person, but we both know the steps that we have made a tailored plan together for. It alleviates some of the stress for the spouse to say, okay, we're not ignoring it. We're
Yeah.
not pretending that it's not happening, but it's not all on me. And
Yeah.
that person that I love is taking even a small step of accountability to address what's going on inside them. And that actually alleviates some of the relational stress to say, we see it together.
Yeah.
And is there a part that I can play while you're taking hold of the parts that only you can do?
Yeah.
Right? Does that answer that a little bit as to
Yeah.
why?
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I think I want to circle back around to like how you, as the spouse of the person who's struggling with the addiction navigate the fear that it feels like
Mhm.
to be in that space. And maybe no matter what, there really is fear. You're
Mhm.
already in it with the fear. And so maybe it's just acknowledging that. And as that person comes and talks to you, the fear starts to, you start to get a little more comfortable. Like, oh, they are taking these steps that they said they were going to take. They are having this conversation with me. And maybe that's what begins to build that trust again. And I think I want you to expound on the support system because it
Mhm.
sounds like that is um, like something that's necessary
Yeah.
to help both of the couple.
Yeah, and you're right. There always is kind of an element of fear. While we're in this kind of triage addressing, we have to make a change. We see there is a problem. Not saying you always have to live in fear of what if,
Yeah.
but I can't pretend that that nervousness, that wondering, that questioning is not going to be present for some time because you are learning to see your spouse as taking accountability. Actions and words are matching over
Yeah.
time as you're kind of both facing this together in a new way. That
Yeah.
fear is normal.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we may not be making progress, though,
Yeah.
and that it's possible to keep building healthful changes and encouragement of one another. Hey, we see us doing this. We can keep celebrating and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
When you,
Feels
yeah,
feels good to say that that fear is normal and at the
yeah,
same time acknowledge it still sucks. Like
yeah,
the
yeah,
time and the process is still hard, even though
mhm,
that's normal.
yeah. I don't have to like it.
Yes.
This is not my favorite chapter of our story,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean it's our only chapter.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and you brought up such a great picture, and it stuck in my head the other day when I was thinking about our time together, and I wish I could find a visual of it. When we talk about a community, when it can't just be the one spouse who holds you accountable or supports you or a cheerleader for you, we actually are wired from our creator to need a safe community. And it's no different here. Your spouse needs that support to say people
Yeah.
are doing their work, and you need that support to say some people who are also walking alongside their spouses or their loved ones,
Yeah.
and they can recognize the pain and kind of validate that with you. It helps alleviate that feeling. And the goofy picture that kind of hit my head when I was thinking about this is the Amish have this tradition, and it's maybe other faith practices as well that have this tradition. They have this tradition called barn raising,
Oh, yeah.
right? They have beautiful craftsmanship. They build this magnificent, sturdy building, and they do it as a community, and it takes all hands on deck, and they're just tremendous frameworks that provide such incredible things for community members or farms. But there's this thing they do, and I don't have the correct phrase for it. If the barn is in a certain location, once it's completed, and they don't want it to be there, the whole community or several will come together, and they literally, I want to say dozens, if not hundreds of men,
Yeah.
deadlift this building and walk it to the proper location. It is the most mind-blowing thing I've ever
Yes, that's
seen in my life.
incredible.
And yet, it's a beautiful picture to me of when we see this massive construct that has felt so stuck and
Yeah.
we can't see a way to do it. Two people couldn't lift that barn,
Yeah.
and yet many hands
Yeah.
literally can help it by degrees be moved and set into a new firm location. If you
Mm.
can make the stretch of the picture, that's in essence what we're doing when we help couples say, we can look at this together and we're going to lean into the safe community that we are all taking these steps. We are all helping each other stay accountable,
Yeah.
hold the emotional stress and strain, and take steps forward to change our literal position and have a new construct of life.
I feel encouraged by that. It's like, oh, this felt so huge, so insurmountable. But if we can get the right community pieces in place, we can navigate it. And you actually ended your article with this phrase, or it was near the end. And I just loved it so much that I wanted to bring it up here. It says, you have what it takes to see change happen in your life and your marriage. Your spouse does also. Like with this community to support you, you can do it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. It comes back to me so often because sometimes we focus so much on the pain, the difficulty, the grief, the
Yeah.
reality of how hard it is.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget to kind of come back to that. Hey, you know what? You were actually made to do hard things. The most
Yeah.
difficult day of your life before today still didn't take you out.
Mm.
It didn't. It sucked.
Yeah. Suck bad.
Probably would never want to repeat it, but it didn't take you out. And I'll borrow a picture from a shared expert that we are very grateful for, Josh, our founder here. That because I want to give credit to where credit's due. He uses a picture of, you slice your finger open and immediately your body starts to send the correct cellular
Yeah.
care to close that wound. The blood begins to clot and it begins to heal immediately. And it's a visual and an internal reminder to me that we are actually wired for healing and change. We absolutely are. Just because these parts have been excruciating doesn't mean that it has to be the end of this experience together. If people want to, even if it's one little degree at a time, we can make that change. And I just want to encourage
Yeah.
the spouse or the loved one alongside their family member or their spouse who is carrying this burden to say, get the right people around you. It's very scary to do that
Yes.
step, to say, "Hey, I'm in this
Yes.
with my spouse."
It takes such, like the person struggling with the addiction has to do so much heart bravery work,
Mm,
but so does the spouse.
mhm,
Like they have to get their own support group. You said your healing journey doesn't have to wait on your spouse. Like you can support yourself. And that is so incredibly brave.
mhm. Yeah, it is so brave to say, "You know what? I'm tired. I'm scared." It is so
Yeah.
vulnerable to say that when we're
Yes.
probably used to being the one who holds everybody together and we just press through one more time. It's
Yeah.
really scary to say, "You know what? I don't have it together and I'm losing hope and I don't know
Yeah.
where to turn." That act of your own courage, I could be honest, kind of mirrors some of the work that your spouse is also having to face. We're
Yeah.
taking ourselves off of our, if you will, pedestal that
Yeah.
I can be strong enough. Sweetheart, you don't have to be. And you
Yeah.
probably can't.
Yeah.
So we can step back and say, help me.
Yeah.
Let me learn how to do this.
And the fact that you're not strong enough is actually going to be part of the thing that helps propel healing in both of you.
Yes, because we were made to need that connection to say, can I be vulnerable with you?
Mm.
And we receive that greater healing the more vulnerable we are with safe people to say, we get it. We're with you. You don't have to hold it all by yourself. We can find that courage, like that image of this goofy barn. We
Yeah.
can all hold it with you and we can get to where you need to go.
Yeah. Uh, it's slow.
Mm. You just say
One
la for a
little,
moment.
yes. Like I'm thinking of them moving that barn and I love this picture, but like who knows how far they have to move it. And you know that they're moving like one little tiny bit at a time because they're moving it carefully and they don't want to do anything that would sabotage the process.
Yeah.
So I think it's again with that normalizing that it sucks and that it's okay and it's still progress and you can't expect more than progress.
Yeah.
It's so small.
Yeah. Your 5% today that you could give. That's all you had. That becomes your 100% today.
Yeah.
And that's all right. I talk a lot about time, I think, here and some other articles, because I think we just kind of leak that out. We feel like it should be downloadable,
Yeah.
right? Should be a template. I should be moving faster according to somebody out there somewhere. But it's just not possible. The brain and the heart and the mind just take the time it takes. It's mileage. It's 30 days at a time. It's weeks at a time, chunks of a year at a time. It's just part of how we're made. And it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. We see, we see the seasons. We
Mhm.
see the way, the tides go in, the tides go out. Like there is rhythm in things, and there is
Mhm.
rhythm and time in
Mhm.
this.
Mhm. Yeah. And if we don't stop and start to realize that, stop the old pattern of push, 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 shove down, ignore, numb, that's kind of what got us here in many ways. There are other contributing factors for each person, but if we don't recognize that and start to slow down, we have needs for connection, a different pattern to be more present with one another. We might risk continuing that pattern of addiction or swapping the addiction pattern to something
Mm,
else, right? Because we're still tired and we're still lacking connection and we're
yeah.
still not refueling in a healthy way.
Yeah. Uh, we talked about should you get involved with your spouse's recovery? When shouldn't you get involved? Like,
Mhm.
when would that be a bad idea?
Bad idea would be if you are already picking up on, let's say, um, your spouse or your partner is struggling with alcohol addiction and they have wrapped their car around 5 different trees. They've got multiple speeding or DUI tickets to some states. Your license will be removed after some point. But if you find yourself continually picking up the tab
Hmm.
for that action, um, or settling disputes right out of court, like continually, if you find yourself planning your social schedule around what substances are going to be there, or what is my spouse's level of intoxication or their pattern of buying or selling or spending, things that are going
Yeah.
on, and you're constantly thinking about what are they going to be like and how do I have to be present to make sure everything is okay.
Yeah.
um, and if there are certain patterns in your spouse's behavior, all that we've named are harmful financially, mentally, emotionally, but also physically.
Yeah.
If you are continuing to bail, so to speak, or literally your spouse out of circumstances, then you are enabling a pattern of what is going to become a continual destructive pattern of self-harm for them. And you're actually
Mm,
putting them at greater risk. You're
mm,
not protecting their social image. You're not actually protecting your business or their business. You may think you are, but actually you could be contributing to this problem instead of helping them face the mirror and
yeah.
look at the actions that are actually happening and going, this was not anybody's decision but you.
Yeah.
And do you want this to continue? Getting the help of someone to help you look at that with your spouse to say, is this who you want to be? Because this is a way out of balance picture of responsibility. We talk a little bit about that later. Your spouse is not your child.
Mm.
If you
Yeah,
have an
as you
adult
were
in your
sharing
home,
those things, I was thinking, oh, this reminds me of when my kids were little and I was preparing, like, well, I can't take them to this place because they'll destroy it, or I can't, they're not ready to sit responsibly in this
yeah,
setting for this long. And so,
right,
you're
right.
trying to do these things out of love for your spouse, but
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
actually hurting both
Yeah,
of you.
yeah, and it's a great picture when you're going, whoa, whoa, am I in the way here?
Mm.
Am I, if someone's in recovery, I mean, we're going to plan our time to say, we're probably not going to go have dinner at a bar. There's a
Yeah.
healthy balance to I can be
Yeah,
involved in the
totally.
process. But if I'm just ignoring it and I'm just paying the bills, covering up, managing their emotions for them, planning my whole social schedule around what's going on for them so I can make sure that everybody's okay and nobody knows about what's happening, those are some yellow burgeoning on red flags for you to
Yeah.
say, I'm having trouble setting boundaries. I need to wait to get involved in my spouse's recovery for a little bit because I need to work on my boundaries so that I don't start to over function for them until they can take ownership of their actions, their emotions, and their responses. And I can come alongside them and we face it together and I don't take it back over for them
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
start to enable them. They have to feel a little bit of the weight of their actions and their responsibility. And
Yeah.
if I constantly buffer that for them, it's not a healthy place.
And if I can't see where I'm buffering it for them, I
Mhm,
might need to lean into my team, to lean
mhm,
into some therapy, to lean into a friend, to lean into somebody else who has a spouse that's in a similar space and ask honestly, hey, will you help me?
mhm. Exactly. Couldn't have said it better. That's when we need help. Yeah, yeah. That's not pretty.
So, yeah, what are the first steps? Like, if somebody's like, okay, I see my spouse is in this pattern. I'm ready to do something. I'm fed up living the way we are, and I want it to be different. I believe it can be, even if it's painful, even
Mhm,
if it goes away. I don't want it to go, even if
mhm.
I have no idea what it's going to look like. What do I do first?
Yeah. And there's a million different ways that you can. Some of the ones that I point people often to is find that community first.
Mm,
Get in touch. If you don't know where to start with finding a counselor, you're here. So this is one
yeah,
area. But if you don't know where to start, reach out to some time-tested resources like Alcoholics Anonymous or Al-Anon is the partner, the
yeah,
sister group for family members of those battling addiction. Celebrate Recovery is another wonderful group that is more biblically focused, but the same type of 12-step accountability process. Reach out to a pastor, or if you have a couple of safe friends, even a social work kind of family community center, most states or
mm,
cities have one of those to say, I need some resources and support.
yeah,
Those three, usually a pastoral support, have some resources and links that you can start with,
yeah,
and a safe couple of friends to say, I'm stuck, I'm overwhelmed. Maybe you can't even make the phone call yourself, just to have somebody with you in the room to say,
yeah,
let's do it together. Let's look at it together. So two sets of ears or two sets of eyes can see it together, and we can work at taking some steps together, going to
mm,
a meeting, even the two of us,
yeah,
right? Or more. You can have more than two friends. It's okay.
yeah,
And they can kind of walk
yeah,
with you through that process. Yeah, it's a great place to start. I want to send one clear signal that um, if you are not feeling safe
mm,
in the home, this step would even kind of trump the get involved in a group, if we could say they're equal.
yeah,
If your spouse is acting in a continually escalating dangerous pattern, we're throwing things against the wall, we punch through a wall,
yeah,
we're screaming and shouting at each other when we're at the height or the escalation of that addictive pattern. Stop. Just stop. We have to be safe in order to make steps of change. So I want to be clear. You can work with a pastor, a group member, a therapist, an assault line, whatever you need to take some really clear steps to create safety for yourself. You have to get a hotel for the night, go stay with friends or family to say, I have to create some distance because while this family member or the spouse is not taking ownership of their
yeah,
actions, I'm going to have to create some distance because I can't be close to this. You
yeah,
have to be here to tell the story, to help your spouse make better connections and build safe relationship. But if you are not feeling safe, we have to start there first and foremost.
Yeah, it's really good.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is a hard topic, Mary.
It is. It is hard.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you writing this article, for doing this work day in and day out with people. You
Mhm.
see the messy, all the pieces, and you see the hope.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. If anything in this work, for someone who's reading or listening to this, that is taking that step, maybe they're in that loop to loop of, I don't know where to start. Like, what can I do? Um, they can, starting reading the big book of recovery or things like that, and they're just trying their best. If they could hear that from us so clearly,
Yeah,
that there are steps you can take to create safety for you, that your spouse can also take steps for themselves, but we can't if we keep doing this pattern and ignoring that it's there. But
yeah,
there is hope. And if you can't find room in your bandwidth to hold on to that hope, that's why we need this community or a therapist or a pastoral therapist and friends to help you hold on to hope. No matter what comes forward, you can make changes, and so can your spouse. And people can hold on to that hope with you as you take
yeah,
those little bitty steps.
yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that hope, and thank you for holding that hope.
Mhm. I do.
I
It's always an honor.
appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next article.
Sounds good. Thanks, Cassie.